This podcast is brought to you by United Way of Cast Clay. United Way of Cast Clay strives to create a vibrant, welcoming community where everyone can thrive. Get involved at unitedwaycastclay.org.
You're listening to The Vault, a forum communications podcast covering true crime and general intrigue in the upper Midwest. I'm Trisha Taurinskas, reading post-bulletin reporter Mark Wasson's story, Prohibition-era bootleggers made Southeast Minnesota a booze smuggling hotspot. An April 1925 headline from the Winona Republican Herald's evening edition screams, "Raid opens Rochester mayor's war on rum." The raid, over 5 years after the prohibition against alcohol went into effect, signaled Mayor John T. Lemon's dedication to ending the flow of illegal libations into his city. Southeast Minnesota was a hotbed for bootleggers during the Prohibition era, and newly elected Lemon instigated the raid on a Rochester cafe where a small amount of alcohol was found. He planned on making it hard on the nefarious criminals, bringing the devil's water into his city. But, like many stories of this era, the actual truth on the ground was much different. Less than a year later, Lemon would be wrapped up in accusations he had purchased alcohol from a Rochester man. Whether Lemon himself faced any consequences for this is unknown. But in 1927, he ran for, and won, an alderman position and later lost a mayoral election in 1931. Demand for booze reached further than government agents could handle, oftentimes because powerful people like Lemon would also partake in a drink or 10, despite public posturing declaring otherwise. Alcohol would often come into southeast Minnesota through Wisconsin, either by Winona or La Crescent. In Rochester, it was sort of a family business. Multiple members of the Burke and O'Keefe family in Rochester would be charged in federal court on liquor charges, including Vernon Burke, a 23-year-old booze runner who was arrested in September 1932 trying to cross the La Crosse, Wisconsin Bridge in Minnesota with alcohol. Burke and his partner, Harry Dixon, would tell law enforcement that they had been making weekly runs into La Crosse and Rochester to deliver alcohol from an outfit in Milwaukee. About 1,000 gallons a week would go to La Crosse, and 300 gallons a week would go to Rochester. Burke denied to police that he was running booze to Winona, but said, "There's plenty coming through here." The pair had been arrested after they stole a car and apparently spilled the beans on their illicit business. The armed duo said they had been hijacked in Rochester earlier that week and couldn't afford to fix their car. They stole a car and headed towards La Crosse on their way to Milwaukee to pick up more booze for Rochester. The car the pair was driving was owned by Burke's mother, and he was cousins with Clifford McRand, known as Rochester's bootlegging king. McRand was sentenced to 18 months in Leavenworth prison for driving through a blockade of federal agents with a truck full of alcohol in January 1932. Law enforcement would arrest dozens of people in southeast Minnesota during the era, many serving sentences less than a year, though some would get away. One youth, thought to be around 18 years old, took flight following a Rochester sting in March 1932. The unknown teenager was traveling with Lawrence W. Good, then 24, who met with a federal agent at the Rochester circus lot to sell 5 gallons of booze. Following Good's arrest, the teenager fled across the snow-covered circus grounds. One federal agent fired 6 shots into the air in the hopes of scaring the man into surrendering, but it only sent him running faster. Law enforcement was unable to nab their suspect, despite the teenager falling down at least twice during his run from police. Firing at running suspects was not a one-off experience in southeast Minnesota. J.S. Kabazinski, a federal agent stationed in Winona, was suspended after he fired shots at a suspected bootlegger in Dover. Robert Ford, the Northwest Prohibition administrator at the time, told the Associated Press that Kabasinski had not been dismissed for the incident and had been working with the department since the incident occurred. Any final disciplinary actions would need to come from Washington, D.C., according to Ford. Prohibition would end December 5th, 1933, finally allowing people to legally do what they had been illegally doing the entire time. You've been listening to The Vault, a Forum Communications podcast covering true crime and general intrigue from the Upper Midwest. Unlock more cold cases and crimes from the past at inforum.news/try. Get your first 3 months of unlimited access to our entire news network for only 99 cents a month. Visit inforum.news/try to take advantage of this deal.